So welcome to the fourth session of the Digital Ethics Forum, and welcome everybody. I reintroduce myself and Pietro Jar. I am the founder of Piano D and member of the Sloweb Association since 4 years ago. And together with Pietro, we develop initiative to spread the best practices around digital sector here in Italy regarding corporations and associations and so on. This is the sixth Digital Ethics Forum, and the first one with the 2 full sessions in English only. The title of this year forum is For a Sustainable Digital Environment, Impacts of New Technologies, Regulations, Projects, and Collective Initiatives. The title reflects passion for research and analysis, but also for identifying concrete solutions and proposals. This is the main goal of the Sloweb Association. Participation in streaming is through the Zoom. We are on it right now, and so I can introduce the first speaker, Tim Freak. So welcome, Tim, to
Thanks very much.
To our Digital Ethics Forum. And Tim is the founder of Mightybytes agency based in Chicago, and also the chair of the W3C Sustainability Community Group, and also interest group we will talk about more specifically within the next minutes. The subject of the speech is using the web sustainability guidelines to drive change in tech. This presentation will cover how to use the web sustainability guidelines, or WSGs. I know I can't use acronyms, but this is the acronym of the guidelines. How we can use them to drive much needed social, economic, and environmental change in the tech sector. You'll learn how the WSGs might apply to your own design, development, product management, or marketing work in tech, and how they aspire to influence both policy and best practices in our industry. So welcome, Tim, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nicola. I appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen quick. Let me know if you can all see this.
You can see it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. As Nicola said, my name is Tim. I am a chair of the World Wide Web Consortium's Sustainable Web Interest Group. I'm going to talk a little bit about what that group is and what our aim is to be. Since we only have 15 minutes, I'm not going to get deep into, hands-on tactical things to do with the web sustainability guidelines, but I'm going to focus a little bit more on how to use them towards changing policies. So right now we need a lot of change in the tech sector. This entire Digital Ethics Forum is driven by that, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about the work that we've done with the web sustainability guidelines. So the web sustainability guidelines, I covered them a little bit in last year's Digital Ethics Forum in the presentation I gave. They were released in 2023 by the World Wide Web Consortium's community group, which was kind of called SustiWeb at the time. The mission is to improve digital sustainability so that the web works better for all people and the planet. And most of the web's biggest problems will require changes to legislative policies to bring about the actual change that we need in order to envision and bring these guidelines to life and actually, create the change we seek. I do want to take a quick back step to say we have been, our group, which Nicola and Pietro have been involved with for a long time now. We are inspired by those who came before us. The World Wide Web Consortium, also known as the W3C, has been working on web accessibility standards for over 20 years. Their web content accessibility guidelines, also known as WCAG, they love acronyms. They're probably the most widely known set of web guidelines specifically for helping create good web experiences for people with disabilities. And WCAG influences policy and legislation all around the world. So they have a lot of experience in doing this type of thing. And they were a natural fit when we, as a community group within the W3C, were trying to think about how can we bring about the change that we need on the web. So we have had three primary goals: make it easy, make it measurable, and align with existing standards. And more recently, as we became an interest group, we added a fourth goal of being able to influence policy and regulatory guidelines and stuff. The first three goals, which are listed here for anybody who is interested in seeing, they drove the guideline creation since the beginning. So we started working on the guidelines in earnest in 2021, and we were driven by making it easy for anybody to be able to, if you're a user experience designer or a web developer or a business leader, apply sustainability services or principles to the products and services you create and manage. We also want to make sure that we're kind of having a bigger picture impact of being able to measure these guidelines, the impact of these guidelines, and measurably improve the social, environmental, and economic impact of the web. And then finally, we want to align these with existing environmental standards and reporting guidelines and stuff like GRI and stuff. Where our ultimate goal is to improve the web so that it is a more sustainable platform that works better for people and planet. That's a big goal, big audacious goal. And in order to do that, there's a lot of steps we need to take in between. The fourth goal, influencing policy, is more recent. As I said, we're just became an interest group within the W3C, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So the interest group, this is a screen grab from a post that the W3C released on Monday, announcing that we are now an official interest group within the World Wide Web Consortium. This is important for a few reasons. First of all, being part of the W3C gives us more resources to advance the guidelines and move them forward. We were kind of an open ragtag group of people volunteering their time in fits and starts whenever we could to create the guidelines as part of the community group. Now we actually have resources and staff and support from the World Wide Web Consortium to actually advance the guidelines. We also have the ability to raise awareness and education so that we can bring the guidelines to a much broader audience about why they're important, why these issues are important and stuff. And then, of course, the World Wide Web Consortium is a well-known organization with many, many large organizations as members. So we have a lot of chances to collaborate and co-create solutions with other W3C member organizations as well as external partners. So we have, by becoming an interest group, we have a lot of open opportunities that we didn't have a year ago. Probably the most important aspect of joining the W3C, however, is our ability to influence policy and legislation. As I mentioned a minute ago, they have deep experience with the web content accessibility guidelines of influencing laws around the world. And so this is really key to drive wider adoption of the web sustainability guidelines, as well as to meet those other three goals that I just went through. So as an example, I'm just going to give you a few laws and policies around the world that are that currently could impact our own work and vice versa. We could also potentially impact those. So I'm not going to read all of these off, but I share this list as an example of the fact that there are laws and policies becoming commonplace in places around the world. The list of these things are growing. We maintain a full list at the Web Sustainability Guidelines repository, and I can share a link to that, or Nicola can at the end of this presentation. But the reality is that these laws and policies, the number of them are growing. Some of them don't explicitly mention digital products and services like websites or mobile apps or something like that. However, the way that the laws are written, they could easily apply to digital products and services. So I'm just, again, sharing as an example, we have a full list on the in the web guidelines repository. In terms of what the number of policies advancing means for the web sustainability guidelines, We are currently working on our 9th draft. So since launching in 2023, it was September of 2023, we have published 8 different drafts of the guidelines. We are not at what we would call a 1.0 release, but we are currently working on the 9th draft, and the guidelines themselves create guidance for business and product leaders, user experience designers, web developers, and then plus there's a bunch of measurement and hosting recommendations. And so every time we release a new version, we add a number of different new guidelines, update existing guidelines. We also add a lot of supplemental documents to help people along their learning journey. Our goal is to publish an official version 1.0 as a W3C note in 2025, and then a W3C statement will follow that. So W3C notes are kind of the next step forward in the W3C's ecosystem. And so that means that the horizontal review has been done within W3C members. W3C is the group that makes not only the web content accessibility guidelines, but also browser specs and HTML and CSS and stuff like that. So there's a lot of a large knowledge base there. And so, when we officially publish version 1.0 of the web sustainability guidelines, that knowledge base will come to us and provide recommendations. And if history is any indication, that'll probably be a rather lengthy process. The web content accessibility guidelines are going on 20 years now. And so there's probably a long journey to follow that. However, the goal is once we get from a W3C note and we've been reviewed by W3C and everybody's like, yeah, that works great, or looks great, we will publish a W3 statement. And that's important because it has the full backing of W3C and its members, and it also can be used to influence regulations. So I think that's a really important component of getting the web sustainability guidelines to a place where they can influence policy in countries all around the world. With that being said, we still have a very long way to go. Our guidelines are only a couple of years old, or not even a little over a year old. And to reach our goals, we need, under education, we need curriculum, training, certifications. We need additional research. We also need tooling like software products to advance digital sustainability techniques. And I think there are some out on the market there. We need a lot more. We also need adoption for outreach and community awareness, awareness building, feedback loops so that we can kind of continuously improve the guidelines. And then finally, we need to train regulators and politicians to introduce laws that support digital sustainability. I live in the United States, and the policymakers here are woefully underinformed about tech issues and stuff. And so we need a concentrated effort to actually educate them on these issues and help them make appropriate decisions that are in the best interest of the public. So with that being said, I'm going to ask, I'm going to share some resources and also ask people to get involved. All the guidelines live at this URL, and I'll share the deck after this presentation so that everybody can have access to it. But there are tons of supplemental materials. The guidelines themselves, there are 94 different guidelines. It's over 300 pages worth of content. And so you can find all of the guidelines at this URL. And then there are a number of different tools out there that are using the guidelines. We have an open JSON file that allows you to, pull in the guidelines and use them in your own tools. So, sustainablewebdesign.org is a tool that my company Mightybytes made. And that the idea of bringing the web sustainability guidelines into that website is that you can search, or just generally chart your own learning journey. There's categories, there's tags, and so you can kind of figure out what is most relevant for you. If you're a user experience designer, you might find that category most relevant. If you're really specifically interested in, return on investment or something else, there are tags and categories there for you to figure out. And I will mention that websustainability.io also has done the same thing. They've used the JSON file to allow you to sort and categorize the web sustainability guidelines. I don't know if they're keeping up with the version management. I know that our tool on sustainablewebdesign.org does represent version 8 of the Web Sustainability Guidelines. I don't know if they're keeping those up to date as the new guidelines come out. And then finally, Mightybytes is working on a new version of our free web sustainability tool called EcoGrader. And we have incorporated the Web Sustainability Guidelines into EcoGrader's recommendations. And so that should be out soon, hopefully by the end of the year. And you'll be able to actually not only get a bunch of sustainability metrics, but also incorporate the guidelines specifically on impact and effort and that kind of thing. So if you have specific expertise, or if you want to help us take action, I really would wish that you would join our group. The interest group is open to W3C members. If your company or organization is already a W3C member, it's an easy process to go in and add your name to the group, and you'll be added to the list of participants. We also have invited experts. So you don't have to be a W3C member to join our group. If you have specific expertise and you want to add that expertise to our guidelines, you apply as an invited expert. There's a couple of different steps in that process, unlike with W3C members, and there is an expectation that you will contribute to the guidelines. However, with the community group being wide open and anybody being able to participate, and the W3C being a relatively closed business ecosystem, we wanted to figure out a way to kind of meet in the middle. And so invited experts are the way that we landed on doing that. And so you can join the interest group at the link here. And we have monthly meetings, and we work on the guidelines asynchronously throughout the course of each month. And so the meetings are meant to outline, new things that are happening, what guidelines, basically updates from the community. And then the asynchronous collaboration is meant to, just improve and move the guidelines forward. So with that said, I hope I didn't speak too fast. I want to thank you all for your time. I'm hopeful that there will be some Q&A here. And hopefully that was some good, a good overview of generally what the guidelines are and how you can use them.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim.
Thanks,
Really
Nicola.
appreciate it. There are two questions from the public. The questions are two, but it's the same question.
Okay.
And it's funny because the question is, do you think that with Trump's elections, it will be more difficult to implement this project to the digital world? So it's a common problem, or it's a common, question here. What's your opinion?
Thankfully, not all politicians are Trump. That's my own personal opinion as a U.S. citizen. And we do have opportunities. There are already organizations in the United States, like the Center for Democracy and Technology, which is a member of our group, who are already advancing policies around, ethical AI, which I know you're going to talk about, as well as other policies. And so there's many organizations in the US that are already working around, topics like that. They are not specifically they don't tend to be focused on sustainability. So our goal is to kind of try to fill that gap and help those organizations understand the issues around web sustainability, and educate those organizations so that they can in turn become partners with us and help us influence policy. It would be tough to get a federal law around web sustainability at this point. But thankfully presidents only are in office for 4 to 8 years. So, and this one can't be longer than 4. So, I think there are plenty of policy makers in the US that are open to ideas like this. And so our goal is to first start working with them.
Yeah, sure. And another question from Pietro is, do these guidelines generate any interest in one or some of the big tech?
Yeah, we have 3 people. So the web interest group, as I mentioned, was announced on Monday. It was actually announced last week, but they posted a blog post on Monday. And this week we had 3 people from Google join us. And I think we've been talking to someone from Apple. And so there are, when we originally put the guidelines out, we were thinking about becoming what is called a working group, and that's a browser spec essentially. That's a very technical kind of group, and because our guidelines really run the gamut of web sustainability, so it's not just about optimizing code, it's really a whole bunch of different things. It was recommended to us. We got pushback from, I think it was a BBC, Meta, Apple, and Google, and then Mozilla had said to us that if you were to become an interest group, this is something we would support wholeheartedly right out of the gate. And so there has been definitely, they're aware of us, they know of us, and as of this week, there are some folks from Google in the group already. So we'll see how that plays out over time, but generally they're definitely know what we're working on.
Sure. So it's quite interesting how also big techs are approaching this work, and hopefully they will adopt these guidelines in the future. So maybe we can use them as a use case in order to push forward for legislations and so on.
Yeah, that's the hope. I mean, we need a lot of case studies. We need a lot of people who are creating tools for other people to work with and stuff. And so once we have those things, I think we'll be able to, influence a lot more people and hopefully change the tech sector.
Yeah, sure. Also, another little consideration, in my opinion, it's not only a matter of what Trump can do or not do in terms of web sustainability guidelines, because, for example, the GDPR involves also American companies, and so maybe Europe can play a key part inside this game, because it's not directly actionable only for the European people, but also for companies that want to work with the European citizens. So
couldn't agree more. That's absolutely. And given that the list of legislation that I showed already, as you saw, the EU was far and away way above everybody else in terms of the number of guidelines that are relevant to our work.
Yeah, but indeed, companies that are based in the US are involved in laws that are made outside the US territory. So maybe this can happen more, hopefully, I think, or probably more quicker in a quicker way than the other side.
Let's hope.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Tim.
Yep. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And if you want, please stay with us with other speakers and so on.
Sounds great. Thank you.